You can also click to watch a video. We've created a video in every aspect of FlexMLS. Or you can also contact support. And you're calling the Central Time Zone. Our hours Eastern Time are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening, and then Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4. And here's the email address and phone number. And again, that's all found in the Help button in the upper right corner of the screen. Now, the first topic I've been asked to cover in this session is customizing a dashboard. Before I get into that, I want to point out a newer feature in FlexMLS, which is the Quick Launch bar at the top here. The Quick Launch bar will guide you to certain areas of the system. Perhaps we talk about reverse prospecting. And with reverse prospecting, you think, where did she find that? Where is it within the menu? Well, instead of going to that section of the menu, just go to the Quick Launch and start typing reverse prospecting, and it says menu item, reverse prospecting. I click there and it takes me to that area of the system. And so the Quick Launch can take you to menu items. The Quick Launch will also remember recent searches you've done, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, the draft you did earlier that you didn't save, but it'll pop up that search. Maybe you're looking for a member of the MLS. You can use this to do a member search. Or you could start doing an address search. And as you type in the address, it brings up the address you're looking for. Now, with this address, you may or may not be able to see this little icon that's pointing up and to the right. When you click on that icon, it says open a new tab or window. So a new tab pops up, labels it with the address I wanted, but I can still pop back over to this bar. So that Quick Launch will get you quickly to a different area of FlexMLS. Back to the dashboard. Now, the first time you log into FlexMLS, you will be greeted with what we call the Home dashboard. If you decide that you do not like a gadget on the dashboard, in the upper right corner, you can go and you can remove a gadget. So click Remove. That gadget disappears. Or perhaps you do not like this layout of 2 columns. Under the Customize menu, there's an option for changing the layout. So I can click Change Layout. And maybe I want to switch to 3 columns. It makes my gadgets smaller, and then I can click and drag the gadgets into the view I want. You may also add gadgets. Again, going back to the Customize dropdown, there's an option, very first one here, Add a Gadget. And when you click to add gadgets, they're categorized. Maybe you're looking for a gadget on statistics. Click Statistics, and the 6 different stat gadgets pop up. Maybe you're interested in sale to list price ratio. Click to add the gadget. It says it's been added. And if we click to return to the dashboard, you can then scroll down, find that gadget, and click and drag it to the spot you want, and it will give you those statistics. Now, these stat gadgets, and I'll grab questions when I'm done with each section on the outline.
This is a general question. I just want to know, is there a way to reset it to the original?
Yes, you would just remove the Home dashboard and re-add it if you wanted to go back. So if you've got it here, you've saved it, and you think, I don't want this, I want to go back to the original Home dashboard, you can keep this one and rename it. You can delete it, but you can always go back to Dashboards, click Add, a brand new dashboard, and click to re-add the Home dashboard as it was when you first had it displayed, and it defaults back to the original display. There are other options here. You can start with a blank dashboard. If you go to Customize, there's an option under Add where it says blank. It's empty. There are no gadgets selected. So you can go in and choose gadgets. Some of the options I've previously done, notice when I go to the dashboard menu, it says Melissa's dashboard. I set up a 3-column dashboard, and this dashboard has 9 gadgets. No limit. But I have one for my listings, my carts. I have an inventory stat gadget pointing at area 5530. So when you set up stats gadgets, you can come up here to settings and point it at a geo area, a map shape, county, a zip code. And then I picked 5530. I said I wanted to see active and new listings. And so that's what displays here in that gadget. You could customize your statistics on the gadget. I have other gadgets in here for contacts, more days on market, and some other items here. So So you can do a lot of things. Another thing I did is I went and created a blank dashboard and I called it Market Graphs. So I just started from scratch, grabbed some stats, and I'll just show you another example of what you can do. So I grabbed 3 prices gadgets, and I pointed one at Delray Beach, one at Lake Worth, and one at Highland Beach. And so I can compare those 3 markets, the prices for the last 12 months. Then I grabbed the sale to original list price ratio for those same locations, so I can, in this graph, display all these different markets on top of each other. Absorption rate for Delray Beach, Lake Worth, and Highland Beach. And then on this gadget, you could get a quick view of how the different markets look for whatever gadgets you've chosen. So again, to start with a blank dashboard, you'd come up here to Customize. Under Customize, you would click to add a dashboard. And you'd want to start with a blank option, perhaps. That's where you can pick any gadgets you want. You give it a name. Click Create Dashboard, and then you get all your gadget options. You can say, I need a contacts gadget. I'd add that gadget. I need a listings gadget. I need my carts. I need the statistics gadgets. And so even though you've already added a gadget like absorption rate, I can click Add Gadget. It says it's added, and then it says Add Another. So that's how I made that one stat gadget, is I clicked to add absorption rate 3 times. And then I set it up to look at 3 different segments of the market to visibly, easily compare the stats across whatever locations you've chosen. So when I return to the dashboard, so far I've only chosen 3 gadgets. I can click and drag them in whatever order I want, and then go to right corner and say Settings. And again, I have West Palm. I could choose that by typing location. It would narrow the list to West Palm. And then it would relabel the absorption rate once I click Save, and now it says absorption rate for West Palm Beach. And it's going to update that to only give me the numbers for that area I'm pointing to. So there are a lot of options you have here. Once you've created a dashboard you really like, under Customize you can say Make Default. That way every time you log in, this is the default dashboard that you're going to see. The final thing I want to mention, and I mentioned this in Getting Started classes, but this button has moved a little bit. I have my menu at the top of the screen. I like it there. It takes up less space. But another option you have, where you are logged in here, your login button, if you click the drop down, it says Arrange Menu. And when I click Arrange Menu, it's now got it on the left-hand side of the screen. So some of you may be logged in with your menu here on the left, and you're thinking, how did she get it to the top of the screen? I went to this drop down and I said Arrange Menu again, and it pops it back to the top. So you can choose to have your menu at the top or on the left-hand side. Any questions on the dashboard or the menu? All right. Well, you'll see this is if you sat through my first class, you're going to hear a repeat of this, but for some of you that sat through Getting Started classes prior to this, we didn't talk about adding and changing a listing in Flex MLS, and I want to cover that now. If you're following along with me and you're thinking, hey, I don't have the add change section of the menu, well, you won't until Monday. You go live with Flex MLS on Monday. Until then, you will continue to add and edit listings in ML Exchange. On the add change section of the menu, what you're going to want to select is Add, to add a listing. It will bring you to the Add Listing portion of the system, and you'll see that this screen is split up into tabs, and it says General, Address, Main Fields. And so the first thing that you're wanting to do is select your property type. And in the drop-down, I'm going to choose Residential. It will then load the appropriate fields needed for a residential listing. If I had chosen Commercial, well, then a different set of fields would have loaded for that property type. Your name will be next as the listing member, and if you're co-listing with somebody, you can type their name in here or click the magnifying glass to pick from a list. Once you've selected your property type, we'll then move over to the Address tab. And as these fields load, the first thing you'll probably notice is some of the fields are red, and if you don't see the red, they're bracketed. And those are fields we've been asked to make required. So you must fill in something in that field in order to add the listing. You may also notice that the field such as city, it's blank. There's nothing in that box. That is because it's related to county. And once you select your county, it then gives you the cities in that county. With a long list, instead of scrolling through that list, you can start typing a couple characters and it pops you down to that section of the list. And so you don't have to do a lot of scrolling if you don't want. Once you've selected the city, it will then give you the zip codes for that city. Once you've typed an address, you can move on to main list fields. But what the geocoder or the mapper is going to do is map the listing. And so it comes up here and it shows me the parcel. Now I can zoom in here a bit to make sure this is the correct parcel, and it is. That's 7247. That's what I entered. But when you're here, if you're not feeling it's been accurately mapped, in the upper right corner there's also a button that says satellite. If you'd like from here, you can click to load the satellite imagery. You'll see you can zoom in quite a ways on the neighborhood. And now this is mapped correctly, but if it weren't, you can grab the red push pin and move it to the appropriate listing. And then once you have it mapped on the appropriate listing, you can click the link labeled "Use this location," and it will set the map there. So you can either go with the geocoder, or if you feel like it's off, you can move it like I just did. And then once you click "Use this location," it sets the map. Now 2 addresses pop up here. This is the address I entered, and this is what the geocoder found. Really doesn't matter which you choose. One's in all caps and the other's in lowercase. I'll just use the geocoder address. Now it brings me into, I'll answer the questions once we're...
I can't get on.
It's TalkTalk. It's Classroom, and TalkTalk is the password. I'm using it and it's letting me on. Sorry, I can't stop and... Okay. On the main fields tab, you'll see again anything in red with brackets is a required field. To move through the fields, you'll just start filling in the information and either use your mouse or your tab key to move through them. With fields like dates, you can click the calendar symbol and pick your date that way, or you can type it in. When you type it in, if you type it in without the formatting, we'll do it for you. As soon as you tab away from the field, it formats it into a date. Some of the fields you'll see here, like commissions, there's a little bubble under there, and it's just a rule on that field. RMLS has put a rule that this field requires dollars or a percentage, and it shows you how to type it in based on their rules. Now, I'm not actually going to add this listing today. I do want to point out a few things. Some changes here. Sometimes in some of the fields, RMLS has added help text. So on Homeowners Association, there's some help text to explain what to put in that field. Scrolling down further, the fields with characters like directions, it tells you how many characters are there. You may have also noticed the bubble that just popped up that said auto-saving. Every couple of minutes when you're adding a listing, we save your work. So if you were to have an internet failure, you would not have to start over from the beginning. If you got kicked off the internet, you could come here to the Add Change menu and you'd find that listing sitting in My Incomplete. And it would sit there forever until you came back and finished adding the listing. Now, continuing on here, there is a new field. There's a lot of help text on this field. HOPA. This is replacing your 55 and older and 62 and over field. We've been asked to label it HOPA, which stands for Housing for Older Persons Act. There's a drop down then with the options for this field and additional help text telling you how to fill this in. And there's also a website you can reference for filling in this field. Schools are here. Apparently now they're unrequired. Did you notice they were required before?
Yes.
Elementary, middle school, and high school is a new field. If you try to search on these fields right away, you won't get a lot of data because nobody's populated these fields yet, but that's a new field added. Also with public remarks, what you're talking about to the public. This, home, blah, blah, blah. I have 800 characters here. Type away. You hit the 800 character limit, and you have more to say. And there's a link here. When I click more, it pops up the supplemental remarks and it gives you an additional 10,000 characters. So you can continue to type on the listing. Now later on, if you were to bring up a listing with supplement and you're looking at the detail sheet, it would give you the public remarks, and at the end there'd be the more link. You'd click on more and it would pop up the supplement to give you the rest of the text. But we don't place it on the listing report because you can imagine 10,000 characters would make a really long listing report. So it's just a link. We also have the broker-only remarks, which are private remarks on the MLS. So talking to other agents within the MLS. This next step over is secondary details, design. You can come in here and with a checkbox format, maybe this is a contemporary design. Scrolling down further, construction. Maybe it is a frame. Maybe it's not a mobile home, so I'll skip that. View, it has a pool view. So again, you can go through here and select what your listing has. When adding a listing, you do have an option to describe the rooms in your property. You don't have to. This is an option. You can go to room name and say, I'm adding the kitchen. And the kitchen has a gas and large island. There are 40 characters to describe rooms if you really want to get in detail about each room in the property. You can even put dimensions in if you'd like. RMLS has asked us on a residential listing to make the primary photo required prior to adding it. So you'd click to find the photo and then give it a description. Captions are optional if you want to further describe what's being shown in that photo. And then finally on the export tab, here's where you're talking about sending this out to public websites such as Realtor.com. Maybe the seller says, we don't want our address on the internet. I'd check the box, seller directs address to be excluded from the internet, and it would not display. Now there may come a time when you're adding a listing and it's 5:15 and you're like, I'm tired of this. At any time you can click Save as an Incomplete Listing, and it will just save what you've added thus far. So when you click Save Incomplete, you'll find again that listing under the My Incomplete, and it will sit there forever until you come back and continue adding it or delete it. When you bring up an incomplete listing, you can get back into the listing information we were just on. And if you would like, you don't have to, but if you would like, you can click here to upload all the photos to your listing prior to activating it. So then as soon as it hits the MLS, all the photos are already there. To demonstrate how to add photos, you'd click Photos, and it brings you to the screen and it says Select Files, and there's a button labeled Add Files. So this will take you to the folders on your computer. Now I can't tell you where you put those photos. That's up to you to remember where you place them. And depending on what kind of computer you're using, Control or Command, you can hold that down and pick different photos that you want for the listing. We don't limit photos. If you want to upload 100 photos to your listing, you go ahead. It remembers the file name, like this is called Country Home. So when I click Open, it's going to name the file Country Home. That is how I saved it when I uploaded that file from my camera. If you don't want this labeled Country Home, you can delete this and rename it whatever you want. Name of picture here. Now we take a photo up to 10 megabytes. That's huge. We also do some resizing for you at this point. So when I click Start Upload, what's going to happen is very quickly it's going to upload these photos. They're not humongous, so it's not too much time at all. It's taken those 3 photos and uploaded them. We actually save your photo in 3 sizes: the original size, a report size, and a thumbnail size. Once photos are here, if you don't want this photo to be the primary, you can select a different picture in the list. Maybe you want this to be the primary, and you can click then to edit the photo and make that the primary. Well, it actually is the primary. Make primary. And that's then got the red flag. Also, if you don't like the order you uploaded the photos, you can just click and drag them in whatever order you want. Return to the Edit Listing screen. I can then go back to listing information, and once I have everything filled in, I can click to add the listing. Now, if I were to click Add Listing, I'd get a giant error because I got a whole lot of required fields left to fill in. So if you would all bear with me for a moment, with the magic of cheating, because I have some options that you guys don't have, I'm going to go grab a listing to show you what the next screen would have looked like if I would have actually added the listing. So you won't go through all this, but I kind of have to take a long route. So if I would have actually clicked to add the listing, this is the screen that would have popped up next. Listing information, that would take me back to the screens I was just on. Here is the 10,000 character supplement. So if later on after you've added the listing you get wordy and you want to come back and continue typing, you can get into those 10,000 characters here. Even after a listing has been activated, if you do not like where it's been mapped, like I showed you earlier, you can grab the red push pin and move it on the map. Depending on the settings of your MLS, you can come down here and maybe you need to change the list price. If you've decided to change it with the seller, you can come here to update the price. Maybe you got an offer. It's time to put the listing under contract. In Flex MLS, to withdraw a listing is temporary, and this terminology may be a little bit of a change for you. Let's say you have sellers, they're leaving for a trip for a month and they don't want the house on the market while they're gone. I would withdraw it. It would be temporary withdrawn. As soon as they get back to the area, I would then put it back on market. A withdrawn listing is temporary, and if it hits the expiration date while withdrawn, it will switch to expired. In Flex MLS, to cancel a listing, you'll see the word final behind that. Maybe it's not working out. You all just don't like each other, and you decide not to work together anymore. I'd cancel the listing. Maybe we rip up the contract, we walk away, and it would always show as a canceled listing for that property. Now, I mentioned before, you can add your photos at this point. So even, you don't have to add them prior to activating. You can upload them here. You can also click to upload a document. That document can either be a PDF or an image. No limit to documents, and they can be as many as you want. Maybe it's a floor plan or a disclosure or a plat map. We also allow videos and virtual tours. We just don't host them. So whoever made your virtual tour, you just copy and paste the code onto the listing. If you want to get creative and take your own video camera out to your property, you can make your own video and host it on YouTube, and then copy and paste the code here. Finally, on an edit listing screen, if you use these features, some markets do, some don't, you can schedule a public open house on your listing, or you can also put it on an agent caravan or tour, and then other members can search for those upcoming scheduled events. Questions? Yes?
Right now, the sheets that are generated from a listing are going over an 8.5, 11 page. And given that there's 10,000, a supplement that is 10,000 characters, I can imagine that it's going to definitely go over.
The supplement won't print on the detail sheet. It's just a link.
Okay. Given that normally with the MLS that we have right now, currently, you generate one 8.5, 11 page per listing.
Yep.
Is that going to be addressed somewhere? Because it seems like a lot of information.
Well, what we did is RMLS said, here are the reports we want you to set up. So we recreated them in our report writer. We always recommend when you print from your browser to make your margins the smallest possible size you can. That will decrease the chance of it. But I know some of those reports are longer. Now, if RMLS asks us, we can make some different formats of the report so that you have a true 8.5 by 11.
And the piece that overlaps is normally the realtor's
Contact information.
contact information.
Have you tried tweaking your margins?
I haven't yet. I've just been playing with it.
If you use Internet Explorer, they have like 3/4 of an inch margin, which is a huge waste of space. And so try bumping those down first. But then if you're still having a problem, give us a call. Yes?
With the photos, I noticed you picked 4 before there, and you just put all 3 in at once. With our old system, we picked 1 at a time and stuck it in. Is it still going to give us the option to do that?
You can do one at a time if you'd like, but you can control click and add multiple.
Does it add by the way you click them?
I believe I'd have to test that out.
Just curious.
Yes.
Showing instructions. I haven't seen you do anything with that.
I believe it's in the details. I'm not sure though. I don't know your data all that well. Showing instructions is in details.
Now, we have currently the ability to do private showing instructions that with an electronic notification. We're going to have that?
Is that a separate software?
We still have Showing
Showing
Assist.
Showing assist will still be there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's online.
All right. Yes.
So when you add a new listing, it goes straight to active, so there's no way to search anymore for new or back on market.
It's a sub-status. It's actually new or price change. When I first started coming here, everybody's like, how do you search on that status? I'm like, that's not a status, that's an action. The listing is active, but then underneath it for 72 hours, it would say new listing or price change or back on market. So it's just a sub-status of active, a label. Yes?
I got 2 more questions. I was writing down as I went. The photos, is the primary photo automatically,
It's the first photo that's uploaded, and I'd have to test if it's the first photo I grab. I'd have to test that out.
well, I guess no, the question I'm trying to ask, primary photo is the first photo they'll see, is that correct?
Not, sometimes, but the primary photo would be like on a detail sheet that only shows the primary photo. It would be that one, or maybe like Realtor.com maybe just pulls one photo, you know.
And then documents.
Yes.
When you upload documents, where are we gonna find those?
I can show you when what are we doing today? I'll just show you real quick here. I have to look
See
and,
on the agenda, that's why I asked.
good question. So when you do a search, if you go to the detail tab, if it has attached documents, they'd be in here. This has a lot of things going on, but there's the documents, so it always would be on the detail tab.
Okay.
Just, is there a, I see the history already. Yeah, that answers my question. I didn't see that before.
Okay.
And history is per property, per listing.
It's a combination. It shows each time it's been listed on the MLS and then the current listing. I'm imagining ML Exchange is not going to give us a very detailed history, but every change in Flex MLS that you make will be recorded, who made the change, what they did, what time and date they made it.
From a public standpoint, right? Not
It's an MLS setting whether or not the public can see that history. They'd have to see what RMLS has chosen.
but between realtors.
Realtors, it's open to everybody.
Okay.
All right, yes, one more.
In the withdrawal listing, you said it will stay there until it expires?
Unless you flip it back to active. So what I said is, when it's withdrawn, you can put it back on market when time comes.
Right.
But if it does hit the expiration date, it will flip to expired.
And what's the expiration? Oh, you mean of the listing?
The end date,
Okay,
yep,
gotcha.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You mentioned the virtual tours.
I can't hear you, what?
You mentioned a virtual tour as adding something from YouTube. Do we still have a non-branded?
Your rules will stay the same for branding, non-branded. And when I was talking about YouTube, I was talking about videos. If you want to create your own video, you could use a free website to upload it there. Okay, I just see what's in my list here. I want to talk about, in the Getting Started classes, we talked about setting up auto emails and portals. I want to talk about a few extra features in contact management that might not be completely obvious to you, and you may never use these features, but I just want to make sure you're aware. So what I'm going to do is go to the Contacts section of the menu, and under Contacts, the very first item you'll see here is Contact Management. Now, each of you, when you log into Contact Management, will have a list of contacts. In March, ML Exchange gave us the first pull of your contact list, which we've uploaded into Flex MLS, and then this weekend, at some point, they'll give us the second pull to update your contact records for any changes you've made between now and March. In Contact Management, you will see these 4 columns: their name, whether or not they have the portal, a phone number, and an email address. This display can be changed. For example, if you use the portal, you may want to change this display. If you go to the Advanced dropdown, under Advanced, the very last item in the list is Customize Contact List. So if you'd like to change this display, you can click here. And it gives you a set of columns. If you use the portal, you might want to use the column labeled Last Login. So in the display, you can quickly see when was the last time your client logged into the portal. Or maybe you want a column for favorites and possibilities. So then you can see a count of anything in that display they've marked as a favorite or possibility in the portal. When I click Save Changes, you'll go back to the contact display and notice I have these 3 extra columns: Last Login, and if they've marked anything as a favorite, which Mike has, I can click these 2 listings. Instead of clicking on his name and going to his portal tab, right from here I can click to see his favorite carts because I have made this as part of my display. So again, if you're interested in changing this view in Contact Management, you'd go to Advanced and you'd click Customize Contact List. Now you don't have to do this, just making sure you know that that's an option. If you are storing your contacts' addresses in Contact Management, under the print option, we do have a mailing labels option. Snail mail, I don't know how many are using it these days, but there are mailing label options. When you click print mailing labels, it'll ask you a couple questions, and then when you get to print labels, we've actually already programmed the software to print on Avery 5160, which is the 3x10 sheets. So you can create mailing labels from here, or you can export the data to another program and create whatever size labels you want. So that is something that is built in here. Couple other things I want to point out under contact management. In ML Exchange, maybe you never took the time to enter your contacts into the contact database. And after you've seen some of the tools that FlexMLS has, you might think, now I got to manually enter all those people because I want to use the portal. We don't have to. Under Advanced, there's an option to import contacts. And so you'd click on Import Contacts, and it's going to ask you to choose the file. And so what you'd have to first do is go to wherever your contacts are and export them into a CSV file. And it stands for comma separated value. Basically, it's just dumping those contacts into a spreadsheet, which you can then import into FlexMLS. So if you use Microsoft Outlook, it has a import-export option. Gmail has one. The different email programs, you'd have to explore because I'm not an expert on all these things. But as long as you can export them out of where they're at, you can then, let me go back here to show you where I found this, come to Contact Management, go to Advanced, and click to import your contacts. You can also export them if you want to pull them into another program. Again, it works with CSV. It's a very common format. It stands for comma separated value. And if you get hung up, maybe you use Outlook. I know our support staff has PDFs of instructions on how to do this from Outlook with screenshots. So you could contact them and they could email you that guide for using that program. When you select a contact in Contact Management, there are a lot of tabs down here. If you have any saved searches set up for your person, you can click here to see a saved search that's attached or get to an auto email. You can also see here their portal activity. Then there's two sets of notes. If you've sat through my Getting Started class, I said when you're saving your search, please do not describe your customer while saving the search. If you need to describe your customer, you can click here on the Notes tab and talk all you want about them because they will not see these notes. Listing notes are shared with your customer. So as you add listing notes, they can do this in the portal. So as they're typing notes, you can add to their notes and they're shared. So don't talk about your customer here. These are private notes. Listing notes are shared. And then any manual email that you've sent to your customer is here in links. And if you want to review something that you sent to them, you can click here to see what you sent on these particular days. So it will keep track of emails sent to a customer here in the links tab.
Only from within Flex emails?
Correct. Well, if you send them using your local email client, but any link sent from Flex, whether it's sent from FlexMLS or your local email client, it keeps track of the link sent from the system.
Whatever email address you're using in there, even if you're sending it from outside of it, like
Right.
Gmail?
It doesn't, yeah, if you're using a local email client, it's keeping track of the link sent from the system, so it doesn't matter what avenue you use to send it. Now for the next couple of features in contact management that I want to cover, I can't do it in your MLS. I have to go to another system that's already using it. I don't want to display anybody's stuff here that you might know this person. Another very cool tool within FlexMLS is what we call the Listing Activity Report. And this is only available on your listings. If you go to Bob's listings, you can't get to his Listing Activity Report. It is only available on your listings that you're selling. So I'm going to bring up a sample report on a listing in my hometown. Christine and I are from North Dakota. That's where the system's coming from. So if you call support, you're not talking to somebody in India, you were talking to somebody in North Dakota. So you'll have to get used to our Scandinavian accents. So let's say that this was my listing. There is a little arrow next to the MLS number, and when I click on that arrow, one of the options at the very end says Listing Activity Report. When you click this link, it gives you the begin date of the listing. This property was listed on May 1st. It gives me a little bit of information. It has 4 bedrooms, 4 baths. And then on here it says, where are people viewing this listing? My listing has been viewed 529 times within FlexMLS. So realtors, agents, appraisers, affiliates have viewed this 529 times. FlexMLS, our company, sells an IDX solution that you can put on your public website. For those in this MLS that have that public website, it's been viewed by the public 441 times on those websites. Via email, it's been viewed 168 times, and within the portal, it's been clicked and viewed 139 times. And within the portal, it's been made a favorite 3 times, 10 people have marked as a possibility, and 9 people have rejected it. I see here my listing's been shared 6 times. So from the portal, people that are using the portal have either put it on their social networking site or they've emailed it to somebody 6 times. One person has requested a showing, 2 people have asked questions. And finally, I think this might be useful. People who favorited my listing also favorited these. So when my listing, this listing here I'm selling, is made a favorite, these are the other listings that they're making favorites within the portal. And finally, people who viewed my listing are viewing these listings. These are the top hits. So let's talk about the date range up here. This is the begin date. My listing's been rejected 9 times, and I've tried to convince the seller to drop the price. Using this report, I finally convinced him to drop the price, and we did that on June 1st. So a nice tool here is you can come in and say, well, since June 1st, when we dropped the price, what's the activity been since then? So I can change the date to June 1st, click go, and it will update the views and likes and dislikes since we dropped the price. And hopefully it works in your favor, and there's more favorites and possibilities than rejects then. This report can be printed, emailed, and soon auto-emailed to your seller. So again, only available on your listing. You can't access this on someone else's listing. All right, the final feature I want to show you here with contact management is what we call reverse prospecting. And there are 2 sides to reverse prospecting. In the Getting Started classes, we talked about prospecting, where you're setting up saved searches for your buyers, and it's spitting out emails to them with new and updated listings. With reverse prospecting, you are looking for buyers for the properties you're selling. And there are 2 sides to this. In order for this to work, those of you that have buyers in FlexMLS here in contact management, for those buyers in contact management, see here it says reverse prospecting is disabled. You need to be enabling this in order for this to work. Now, if it's disabled, the thing that's doing the search will skip over this buyer because it's turned off. And so I'd click Edit Contact and I'd check the box to enable reverse prospecting. The other thing that you'd need is a saved search. It tells me what the buyer's looking for. So again, this person would be skipped over because it doesn't have any saved searches set up. So that's on the realtors that have the buyers. So some people within the MLS need to be enabling this. For you, as the selling agent, maybe your listing's been on the market for 5 months and you just want to get some more activity going on it. Something you can do is you can go to Contacts and you can pick Reverse Prospecting. When you click Reverse Prospecting, it's going to bring up your active and pending listings. And by going through this list, you can select the listings you want to run this on. So it can be 1 listing or multiple listings. And once you click the Run Reverse Prospecting button, it will go out and search the entire MLS for those buyers who have reverse prospecting enabled and their saved searches match up with the listing you're selling. It will then give you the name of the realtor who has the buyer who's matching up with the listing you're selling. And you may, in that case, find a buyer for that listing. Now, of course, you then need to contact the agent with the buyer to determine whether or not, and of course, I picked a bad agent to run this on, but what this would do, these are all land listings, I think, this realtor is selling. But what it would do is then give me the name of the person if it had any matches. And I could then contact that realtor and say, hey, ran reverse prospecting, your name came up. And they could then, what they would do is they'd come to the listing, so 124577, because chances are that person doesn't know which one of their buyers is the match. And so when they come to the listing, go into that triangle, they can click Match Contacts. And it would tell them which one of their contacts matches up with the listing I'm selling. And it would tell me, I could then determine if I wanted to email that off to the buyer.
And how many of the search parameters have to match?
It's just the main list fields have to match.
So if it was pool or no pool?
Bedrooms, price. You might see a realtor's name pop up many times because they might be using pretty generic save searches, like active, residential. They'd come up quite a few times.
Well, a lot of times, realtors will save searches and not connect them to a contact.
Well, then it wouldn't work because, like I said, the realtor needs to connect the search to a contact and enable reverse prospecting.
Oh,
Any other questions on those contact features? Yes.
I don't have any icons below my contact managers because I don't have any searches saved in
You don't have any icons where?
there. In the contact management, below the, so you have to,
Gotta put it in.
If you click on somebody's name, it brings up their record down below.
Yeah, but bottom line, when she's on,
Mine
she
doesn't.
never says contact.
I might have to take a look at it after and see what's going on then there. Yes.
Well, right now, I can do a search and then save it so that it automatically sends any new listings in that particular search to all my to the contact that it's connected to.
Yep.
How do I do that with this?
Auto emails? Is that what you're saying?
No, I have a contact and she asked me for this and this and that.
Yep.
So I do a search and
Yep.
I save it at the bottom of the MLS.
Yep.
And then it gives me criteria, who are you saving this for, what is it, description, whatever. And then it automatically, every time there's a new listing that comes up in the area, will send it to her and send me a copy of it.
Right. That's an auto email in Flex.
Okay, auto email?
Yep. And that's something we cover in the Getting Started class, but I can show you
I
afterwards.
don't remember it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not something I'm going to cover today, but I can show it to you maybe after.
Okay.
Yes.
As a follow-up to that, when you get the copy, when you receive the copy, it just says copy. It doesn't tell you, I mean, maybe I didn't set it up right, but how do I tell it that it's for John Jones Wellington search or something? Is there a way that I can label my copy searches to me? Because our current MLS does that.
It doesn't say on there this because when I get them, it says this was sent. I'd have to look at the email. What you're set up.
But is there a way to set it up so that when I get the copy of the email, of the MLS that's sent to you, that when it comes to me, it's gonna have your name on it?
Oh, it should. And so that
I think it's just in the read-only mode, it's coming in copy. It says copy
Okay.
per emails, and I think they told us that was gonna change when we go live.
Okay. All right, one more question, then I got to move on, or we're never going to get through this outline. Yeah.
So when that email comes to you saying, a copy saying these are listings that you might like, and then there's a link to the listings that has been sent to the customer, right, like an auto-save
Okay.
search. When you click that link, do the listings come up
Yep. It shows you the copy that they got.
from within that email? You can click the link and the
Yep.
listings show up.
Yep.
Is it-
So the ones
Yes.
we have already, are they gonna?
Not relating to this, but the search box that you did earlier, there's just search fields that are in there, and you're gonna show us how to customize the search and put more fields in there?
Customize what search?
Regular search, the search for somebody, there's only a certain amount of fields that are in.
Oh, and the quick search? I don't have that. If I have time at the end, I just don't have that as part of a topic today. It's something I point out in the Getting Started class. All right. So what I'd like to talk to you a little bit more that I've been asked about is mapping. I want to just point out some features that we didn't go through with on the Getting Started class. I just want to lead off from where we ended with map searching. So I'm going to go to the search menu and I'm going to select map search. And with map search, you also are asked to select a corresponding quick search. So on the left, you'll have search fields, and on the right, you'll have the map. So I'll use the residential option. With the map shapes, let me close this box. What I'm going to do is zoom in on the area, and I want to talk about drawing polygons. So I'm going to zoom in on the map, and I'm going to show you first how to draw a polygon. And you can either use the map, or there's also a button in the upper right corner labeled satellite imagery. So you can either use the map or look at the satellite to draw the shape you need. So on here, perhaps this is a neighborhood I search in frequently. I can go to the toolbar, and the last shape on the toolbar is the polygon. And I'm going to left click on the polygon, and then I'm going to bring it to the map, and I'm going to start drawing. So I'm going to left click, and then I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to click again. And then every time I want to turn a corner, I will click, and it allows me to make whatever shape I want. You maybe want to catch this over here. So maybe that's the shape I want. Now, as I mentioned, if you attended the Getting Started class, If you think that's the shape I want and then you go to take off, so does the shape. And so what you've done is only done one click. To stop drawing the polygon, you need to double click, and that completes the shape. An advanced feature of the polygons is you can save these shapes to be used in future searches. So what's happening over here is it's showing me all the active contingent listings in the search results, and I could of course add other criteria. At this point though, while I'm drawing the shape, maybe this is, we'll call it a neighborhood. And maybe neighborhood's not tracked within your MLS data, but this is a neighborhood you often search in. You can click on the shape with a left click, and a bubble pops up, and it says Edit. And when I click on Edit, what I'm going to do is call this Johnson. I'm making stuff up. Johnson neighborhood. Didn't spell Johnson right, doesn't matter. So I'm naming the shape. Maybe you don't want it to be blue. You could pick a different color. Now I've changed it to be pink. And then it says in the corner now, save it as a map overlay. So I want to use this shape again in the future. So when I click Save as a Map Overlay, I can create a new folder or say Add to Existing Overlays. And I've already created a folder of neighborhoods. So I'm going to say yes, put it in my Neighborhoods folder. And once I click Save, that shape will be available later on. So what do I mean by that? Maybe I did this search, I logged out of Flex MLS, it's 2 weeks from now, and you're thinking, I need to go search the Johnson neighborhood. So if I go to the search menu, I go back to map search, we'll say residential. Now instead of drawing that shape, I can go to the location box at the top of any quick search, click here, and I might have a ton of shapes, so as I start typing the name of the shape I want, it narrows the list. If I can't remember how I spelled Johnson, I think I spelled it incorrectly. Oh, there it is, Johnson. So by double clicking that, I've now added it here, and notice the little pink dot that applied to the map? I don't have to redraw that shape. I can grab it at any time and apply it to any search I'm doing. So you can save shapes, maybe it's golf courses, maybe it's just, it can be whatever you want. You draw any shape you want, you can save it and give it a color. Now with this, when you do the search, you'll see that 16 listings popped up in here. In the lower right corner, there is a color legend. And I'm just searching on active listings. If I came here to status and I said I also want to see anything that's pending and sold, it would then update and give me different colors within here, and each status would show a different color. So now I have one yellow, that's a pending. Now maybe you weren't familiar with what color represented what status. If you click the color legend in the lower right corner, a bubble pops up and it says green is active, yellow is pending, blue is closed. But something else you can do here is you can say show me price. And then the darker red the dot, the more expensive it is, and the more white, the less expensive. Or you can do price per square foot. And again, it will update those dots. So if you like to look at numbers that way, you can use the color legend.
Can you clear that shape again?
So after you've drawn a shape and you no longer want it in your search criteria, it's listed here and you just click the X here to get rid of that shape.
Can you just show me how you just went to save that real quick?
The shape?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that one more time.
Yeah, do the whole thing.
Okay, so to draw a shape, you'll pick the polygon on the toolbar. It's the last shape on the toolbar. You'll go to the place in the map you want to draw, and then you'll left click and let go.
Can it be just a square or the circle too?
You can draw a square or circle, but they can't be saved as map overlays, only the polygon.
Okay.
Squares and circles can be saved in a saved search, but they can't be saved as a separate shape. So once you've completed the polygon, left click on it and a bubble pops up and it says edit. That's where you'll name it and click save to map overlay. And now I have something called sample. You're welcome.
And if you make a mistake and you want to just make that go away, that's...
Yeah, if you drew the shape and you thought, well, that's horrible, you can click on it once you've drawn it. Actually, no, you can edit the shape from here, but once you've drawn sample, you can click here to delete it. So some of you, I want to make sure you're aware of this feature. When I go to do a map search and I click use, this is the map that loads. And you might think, oh, it's zoomed out too far, and I'm constantly shifting the map, blah, 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 blah. I work up here, and I'm constantly doing this, or whatever. Each one of you has an option under Preferences to change your default map settings. And so if you were to go to Default Map, it will show where RMLS has set your default map settings. So this is what RMLS has chosen. So I went to Preferences, and at the bottom of the Preferences list, I selected Default Map. And I'm going to zoom in here, and maybe I work here in this area. And I'm going to select the rectangle, and I'm going to left-click on the map, and I say I work between this freeway and Military Trail, and I work down to Rainbow Lakes. So I'll left-click again. So I'm making my own shape here on the map. And so by clicking Save in the upper right corner, I've now overridden what RMLS has set as your default map settings, and I've chosen my own default map. And again, I found this under Preferences and Default Map. And so now when I go to search and I go to do a map search, notice on the right, the map is zoomed in on that location. Now you're not stuck here. You can zoom out, shift, go a different location. But this allows you to place the map where you want it in an area that you may work in more frequently than instead of having to shift and zoom on the map. Finally, when you do a map search, let me just do a square here. And you look at a listing. And I'm looking at this listing here and I feel like, oh, it's just not right for whatever reason. When I click on the listing icon, there is an option here that says Move Listing, but this isn't my property. I can click Move Listing, and I can grab the red push pin and say it actually should be right here. Now, I'm not actually going to click this, but if I were to click Use This Location, this yellow box is saying, hey, you don't have permission to edit this listing. So if you move it there and click Use This Location, the realtor that has this listing will get an email from me. And it will say, Melissa has sent you a map recommendation. Here's where she put your listing. He can then accept, reject, or map the listing themselves. So they can ignore your recommendation, they can accept it, or they can just map it themselves. So if you feel like something's incorrect, there's that move option, but then it sends the email. It doesn't automatically move somebody else's listing. You can see that that would cause major problems if we did that. So those were just a few additional advanced features on the map I wanted to point out. Are there any questions there? Okay. I want to cover a few stat reports. If you're a numbers person, you might want to take a look at your statistics. And I'm just going to point out a few stat reports today to get you started. I've logged in as Michelle. She's a realtor back in Fargo. Again, I don't want to display anybody's stats here in the room or somebody you might know, so I always use another MLS to give an example. So hopefully none of you are good friends with Michelle in Fargo. Under statistics, you will find the first option is My Production. Now, if you're an office administrator, you won't have My Production. If you're not selling listings, that option won't pop up. When you click on My Production, it will give you a quick view. And in the quick view, it will show you how you're doing this year versus last year at the same time. So far this year, Michelle has sold 20 listings. So as of June, whatever day it is, June 10th. Last year, June 10th, 2012, she had sold 14. And her volume is up almost 1 million. So this year she's sold 2.7 versus 1.7 last year. So the numbers don't really matter. These aren't your numbers, but I'm just giving you an example. Under the listings you have sold, it will break it down. It says 2 under listed and sold. That means she listed these 2 properties and she sold them. She got both sides. She listed 10 and somebody else sold them. She sold 8, somebody else listed them. And since January 1st, she has added 14 new listings to her active inventory, which she's selling. On the right-hand side of the screen, it does give me her current status. She has 14 active, 7 under contract, and 0 temporarily withdrawn. And if you're a chart person, we throw some charts in here under your numbers. So this is a quick view showing how you're doing this year versus last year. There's also under the quick view a member year-to-date report. This will give you a ton of numbers broken down by the status of your listings. So for the listings you have active, maybe you want to know what's your average list. Well, Michelle sells a lot of land, so hers is 70,000. So it might not be a great number to compare to her office and to the MLS because she works primarily in land. And of course, these averages are probably reflecting averages for residential. But you'll see here that you can compare your numbers to the office you belong to and to the entire MLS. So what's your average days on market versus your office's average days on market? So again, if you want to access this report, it's statistics and then your production. 2 more reports I just want to show you today are accessible by all of you. So by showing them in your MLS, I'm not giving away any private data. And so what I'm going to do is go to statistics, and I'm going to go down to the second report labeled Market Summary. If you've never run this report before, it's going to default to your first property type in the list, which is residential. This particular report has 6 sections at the top. It's counting number of listings, prices, sale to list price ratio, absorption rate. So notice how your absorption rate has gone down over the last 12 months. That's great. You want that to go down. Days on market and price volume. As you continue to scroll down, you get some summary statistics and also price ranges where things have pended or sold. Maybe between 400,000 and 500,000, there were 10 listings that sold last month. Now, I told you that this particular report defaults to residential. I can go to customize, and this particular stat report is customized based on locations, your geo areas, your zip codes, your cities. So if you click customize and select new location, I can come here and select a city. Maybe I want the whole city of West Palm. I start typing the city I want, it will narrow the list. And then once the list gives me the search results, I'll double click West Palm. And then it says report date, May 2013. So that's going to be the end date on my graph. And I want to see the last 12 months. So I'll pick May 2013, but you can select, maybe you want to go back to May of 2009 and see numbers back then. So when I click search, it'll take a couple of minutes, but then it'll change the report to show me the numbers for West Palm residential, and it updates. Another very, I'm a nerd maybe, but another very cool tool is remember the shape that I drew in the last section on the map? And I called it Johnson Edition, except I can't spell. If I go to customize and I click new location, notice my map overlays down here. If I selected Johnson Edition that I can't spell and clicking search, this will take longer because we don't have these stats cached anywhere, but it's actually going to go out to the shape that I drew. It'll start calculating numbers based off of anything mapped within my shape, and suddenly I can create my own statistics based off the polygons. And I can point the stat report at that polygon and get the absorption rate, the sale to list price ratio, prices. As I mentioned, this will take a little bit longer because it has to calculate the stats. While it's doing that, and I don't know if it'll finish here, but while it's doing that, I do want to point out that these graphs, some of them can be modified. If you click the wrench tool, right now I've got sale to original list price ratio. I could change that to sale to list price ratio, and it would update it. Maybe you don't know what absorption rate is. I can click the question mark and a panel will open with the definition and formula I'm using to calculate absorption rate.
If we get off this page while it's calculating, will it still calculate?
No, no. What I'd want to do is open something in a new window.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to stay on the page for it.
Yep.
Somebody for it.
Yep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go off this page because I want to go onto my market so we can get done with this. One additional report we have here is my market, and there are actually 5 sections to this. Yes, I know. And we'll see if this one will load for me or if I've just angered everything.
While it's loading, how do you know that it's loaded which one? Like your Johnson on that? Like you accidentally clicked another one?
It labels it at the top once it loads what it's pointing at.